Well, let's get more federal reaction to what Jason Kenney is saying about the threat to national unity from Bill C-69. Amarjeet Sohi is Canada's Minister of Natural Resources. He's also from Alberta, from Edmonton to be precise. He joins me, as you can see, from the foyer of the House of Commons. Minister Sohi, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Peter.
The Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna, your colleague, said Mr. Kenney is making inflammatory statements about the threat to national unity from Bill C-69. What would you say about his comments? Do you share her assessment of what Jason Kenney's saying?
No, Peter, I have lived in Alberta for 34 years, and I still live there. When I am not in Ottawa, I spend most of my time in Edmonton and visiting Calgary and other parts of Alberta. Yes, there are a lot of anxiety among Albertans about jobs, particularly in the energy sector, worry about their families and worry about their communities. But having said that, I think linking Bill C-69 to national unity, in my mind and in our government's mind, is inappropriate, because Albertans love this country. They're proud Canadians, and they take same amount of pride in Canada as do Eastern people living in the East, or in Quebec, or Ontario, or other prairie provinces, right? And we are proud Canadians. Yes, we want to make sure our resources are developed sustainably responsible, and that's why Bill C-69 allows us to do so.
Right, but so is this a difference of what you think people are feeling there? You describe it as anxiety. He describes it as something more than that, something probably closer to frustration. Anxiety is one thing. Is it frustration in Alberta about the fact they can't? They feel the federal government is intruding on jurisdiction that doesn't allow their economy to grow. Is it anxiety or is it frustration?
You know, whether you call it anxiety or frustration, but the worries are real among Albertans. But those worries are rooted in government's inability to build pipelines to get our resources to global markets. So we are fixing a system that would actually allow us to get our resources to markets beyond the United States. When you look back almost a decade or so or longer, we have not built a single pipeline, Peter, to get our resources to the global markets. So we are working hard to fix a broken system that we inherited from Stephen Harper government that allowed every project to fail. You look at the situation with Northern Gateway Pipeline, it was quashed by the Federal Court of Appeal. You look at the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, the decision was quashed by the Federal Court of Appeal because the process was not properly followed, because governments failed to look after the environment and do a meaningful consultation with indigenous communities. So Bill C-69, Peter, actually allows us to move forward on good projects with meaningful consultation with indigenous communities, but also reducing the impact on the environment.
And as you know, Mr. Kenney disputes that. Mr. Kenney says, in fact, and he's not alone, some others have said this as well, that this new assessment process, if it goes ahead as it is, will actually drive investment from Alberta. So there's a question mark around there about whether you will get more projects built.
I respectfully disagree with the Premier Kenney on that, because when you look back at the history of the previous government, they failed to build a single pipeline to get our resources to global markets. We are trying to fix that situation, so we owe it to Albertans, we owe it to energy sector workers, to companies, to give them the certainty so they can move forward on the investments that they need to make in order to grow our economy and create jobs for Albertans and for Canadians.
How would you describe then, in what you've heard, how would you describe the level of acceptance in Alberta for the changes being proposed in Bill C-69?
You know, I understand there are concerns from the industry. That's why we're working very closely with Senate, and Senate is undertaking the study of the legislation. We have always said we are open to amendments that will strengthen this piece of legislation, because at the end of the day, our goal is to ensure that we are able to develop our energy resources of oil and gas in a sustainable, appropriate way, so we can create jobs that Albertans need. Our goal is to fix the system that has led to the situation we're facing today.
Mr. Kenney is also saying if Bill C-69 passes into law in its current form, he's going to challenge its constitutionality in court. as an intrusion in provincial jurisdiction. And he'll also file a court challenge, he says, to equalization. How seriously do you take those threats?
You know, we have always been clear, Peter, that the purpose of Bill C-69 is not to intrude in a provincial area of responsibility. It is focused on federal jurisdiction and projects that fall within the federal area of responsibility, projects that have significant impact on the environment. And that allows us to actually, that assessment that we're proposing, the bill that we're proposing allows us to depoliticize and depolarize the debate around pipelines, actually build more consensus, because when you look after the environment, when you allow indigenous communities to properly participate in a meaningful way in a review process, allows good projects to move forward.
Okay, a couple of things to finish on quickly. What do you think about Mr. Kenney's motivations? He talked about this during his campaign to get elected as Premier in the province of Alberta, but this is now a broader debate about pitting certain provinces now represented by Conservatives, largely, against a federal Liberal government. Do you think this is part of the building of a wall to block, to speak out against Liberal Party policies with a view to influencing the outcome of the election?
What I'll say, Peter, is that Canada works better when we all work together. Canadians stood with Albertans and continue to stand with Albertans in time of need. And Albertans have contributed to the prosperity of this country for the last number of decades, right? So I think we are one country. We are a country that are stronger when we work together in a united way. And that's exactly what we need to continue to focus on and ensure that all parts of our country are succeeding.
All right, Natural Resources Minister Amarjeet Sohi, thanks for your time tonight. We'll talk again.
Thank you so much, Peter.